about a launch sequence. Command and control have broken down out here. Is anyone receiving me? Somebody. Hello? Somebody please come in. Hello? Is anybody out there? Nellis, we are under attack. CQ. Is anybody there?
In November 2012, Newsweek raised eyebrows around the world when it featured President Barack Obama on its cover and boldly compared him to Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. The headline read, "The Second Coming," and the image portrayed Obama cloaked in resplendent robes, arms akimbo, evoking not just imperial power, but near-divine significance. It was bold. It was controversial. And it wasn't entirely about flattery. Newsweek's comparison was symbolic. It pointed to Obama's sweeping ambitions, centralization of political influence, and his campaign's messianic appeal. Napoleon, after all, was a revolutionary-turned-emperor, a man who redefined the political order of Europe and made followers out of former enemies. To some, Obama was doing the same in Washington, promising hope, change, and a reordering of politics. So let's fast forward. If we once compared a US president to a French emperor, then why not entertain this? President Donald J. Trump deserves to be compared to Pope Francis, a global spiritual leader known for humility, reform, and shaking up the world's largest religious institution. Sound absurd? Maybe at first glance. But dig deeper, and you'll see. The comparison, while unconventional, is surprisingly rich in symbolism. Let's start with the obvious. Trump and Pope Francis could not be more different in background, tone, or worldview. One is a New York real estate mogul turned political firebrand. The other is a Jesuit priest from Argentina who writes in a fiat and preaches simplicity. And yet, they share something profound. Both are disruptors. Both shattered expectations in the worlds they entered. Pope Francis broke with centuries of Vatican tradition by focusing on inclusion, environmental care, and economic justice. Trump bulldozed through the American political elite and reshaped the Republican Party into a populist movement centered largely around his own persona. Each of them took control of deeply entrenched institutions, and did so in a way that baffled traditionalists and excited loyalists. Let's look at style. Pope Francis is famously direct in his language. He speaks in plain terms to ordinary people and refuses to be bound by rigid protocol. Trump. He built an entire political identity around telling it like it is, using bold, sometimes outrageous language to appeal to the everyday voter. Say what you will about either man, but neither hides behind polished bureaucracy. Then there's the cult of personality. Just as Obama once inspired near-messianic adoration, enough to land him on that glowing Newsweek cover, both Trump and Pope Francis command deep, emotional loyalty from their bases. Trump's rallies resemble tent revivals, filled with chants, slogans, and symbolic gestures. Pope Francis draws millions across the globe, not because of dogma, but because people feel he represents them in a system they no longer trust. Both men became lightning rods. They inspired hope and resistance in equal measure. Pope Francis was heralded by progressives within the church and condemned by traditionalists. Trump was idolized by millions of working-class Americans and vilified by the media and political class. And here's another twist: each one appeals to a sense of moral urgency. Pope Francis speaks of the soul of the world, of mercy, justice, and spiritual reform. Trump speaks of saving America, restoring values, and reclaiming national pride. Different vocabularies, same emotional register. Both are figureheads in massive, global institutions. Both challenge the establishment in their own ways. Pope Francis pushes against the traditional Vatican elite. Trump. He bulldozed through the Republican establishment, rewrote the GOP playbook, and is equally rewriting the unipolar world order. We mustn't forget that Pope Francis was one of the first to call for Ukraine to negotiate its war with Russia by uttering the now famous words, "Ukraine should have the courage of the white flag." This call was controversial at the time because it contradicted almost every Western leader. In this regard, President Trump was the only one who truly deserved to stand beside the Pope's body at his funeral. And, by electing an American to succeed Pope Francis, the conclave of cardinals seems to have acknowledged this. Now, to be clear, this isn't about equating sainthood and showmanship. Comparing Trump to the Pope is not about virtue or vice, it's about understanding archetypes. Trump and Pope Francis both emerged in moments of institutional crisis. They both offered themselves as agents of change. And they both turned centuries-old institutions into vehicles for their messages. And that's where the real comparison lies, not in holiness or heresy, but in symbolism. If Obama was Napoleon, a revolutionary force turned central power, then perhaps Trump is the Pope of populism, a spiritual leader for a political tribe. It's an odd comparison. Maybe even uncomfortable. But it's no more wider than Obama as a 19th century French emperor. In the end, comparisons like this aren't about accuracy, they're about influence, power, presence, and cultural gravity. Trump, like Pope Francis, like Obama, like Napoleon, leaves no one neutral. And in a world driven by narrative and imagery, that kind of presence demands comparison, even the unlikely ones. So, next time someone raises an eyebrow at a headline, just remind them, Newsweek made the rules. We're just playing the metaphor game by their standards.
Thank you for watching. For more videos on the men, women, and events shaping the multipolar world, please like, share, subscribe and hit the notification button.